there. Patently I'm not going to switch it on, but that is an XP machine right there. Pentium 4 that says, probably can't see it. Somewhere up here, oh, we have another machine that is XP. Here we are. There, this one. This is XP. The reason I mainly keep it is because it's got all these outputs on the front, which was really convenient at the time, and probably still convenient. Look, it's got a floppy disk drive, that shows you how old it is. What's that? Advent T9101. It's from PC. It's PC World only, isn't it? Let's say it's got 3.2 gigahertz Intel Pentium 4. So that's not a Pentium. And look at that. Look at the CRT. It's huge. Really good CRT, but you know, it ain't a flat screen. So there you go. It's another old machine that I won't be switching on just now anyway. So this is we're on Monday the 15th of May. It's 21 minutes past 5 in the morning. It's alright looking. This is in the middle of the UK. It's a sky, weather's okay in it. See that down there. So, turn that off. I was thinking about the cyber attack, as it's called. What time are we on? Give you the London time. My clock says in Paris it's 6:22 in the morning. Washington DC it's 22 minutes after midnight. Munich it's 6:22. Johannesburg same. Moscow it's 7:22. So where are we? Australia? Where's that? Auckland it's 23 minutes past 4. Islamabad it's 23 minutes past 9 in the morning. So this cyber attack that's been worldwide, global cyber attack. Let me just rig this a bit better. Still not right. It's about right. So it's going to take somebody like the FBI or someone to suss it out properly, but is there anything that you could intuit about it? The technical side, obviously, you could follow the technical side, which they'll have to do. I'll give the short version, I think, first, which is that the person that did this, you've got to think about who they attacked. Now, it's hit the NHS in the UK, and it's hit all sorts of countries, what, 40 odd countries or something. It's probably, I think it's 70 or more, is it now? But since it hit, or since the news hit on Friday, Saturday, it's had a couple of days to get going. And basically, from a guy who the BBC interviewed from San Francisco somewhere, where my picture is of, it's something that's mainly hit XP. And they reckon it hit maybe Windows 7 as well and 10 if you don't have the right stuff, but they seem to be suggesting it didn't hit Windows 7 and 10. I don't know, they were hedging their bets, I think. But certainly XP seems to have been a target. So just to outline so as we understand we're agreeing about what it is we're talking about. It's a piece of ransomware. It's a worm virus, supposedly. It's a worm routine. You get it in an email, it's activated by you clicking on the email, and so it involves a human element to it, or mistake. But of course the person doesn't know it's a mistake. So when I was explaining this to my spouse, Sarah, I was saying it's got to be something that attracted people. She said, well, how would you get it? And I said, well, it's got to be something that attracted people. So in the NHS, what would that be? See, that would mean tuning it to a particular organisation. But this is all over the world, so would it be tuned to a particular organisation? Well, they must have been multilingual, surely. If not, it's got to all be in English. I don't know if it's all in English. It could be somebody's personal email account, I thought at first. But then I thought, you'd only have to send something to someone in the NHS, and it say on it something like, for us in the UK, the Health Secretary, the Secretary of State for Health requires your attention immediately, and then something below it that suggests it's come from official channels. Because most people in government are used to following rules and being told what to do. Whether they actually do it properly or do it a certain way in the end is another matter, but they are very used to being, so something that looks to them like it's really official and from somebody higher than them in the hierarchy, if it says you've got to give this some attention now in whatever way that normally comes across, then that will work. So first of all, you need to know if it's in several languages or not, and you need to know if it's for several organisations, if it's been tuned, the emails that went into those particular organisations. It's not the most important thing you need to know about this attack, but it's certainly one of the early things. And that will tell you whether it's a group of people, you see. And this will be the first mistake, whoever it is who did this. If it's a group of people, then they're going to be much easier to catch than if it's one person. $300 they want. Now, I had one of these ransomware attacks, and the way I got round this one, I think, was I went online. This one's called Eternal Blue, supposedly, but I went online when I got my attack and found out how to fix it. I think it was in Windows 7 I had mine. This is a couple of years ago now, because Windows 7's been around a long time. Must be in the last 5 years, because that's how long I've had that particular computer. And I had to dig around and delete things out of the registry in Windows 7 and mess around with it. You had to catch it somehow when you were starting up or something. Press F2 or F10, it came up in safe mode and stuff like that. I think that's a procedure I followed. So what you're looking for, well, I'd say you're looking for somebody on Apple's customer list for a start. This has to be somebody who feels relatively insulated and protected from the attack that they're launching. There's one thing you can say, see, what do they all have in common, the systems that have been attacked? Well, it's all PC attack. So this is not a Windows lover, this is not a Microsoft lover, this is someone who is the other camp, the Apple camp. What else can we say? They're probably a bit of an elitist. They probably see themselves being above everybody else, which is how a lot of Apple buyers see Microsoft and Windows users as fodder. This doesn't mean they don't have a PC themselves, but I rather think they're quite into Apple products, the person that did this. And so there's a couple of things you can discern. First of all, was it a group or not? Well, if it was tuned to different languages and stuff, it could have been an automatic translation. That's not impossible. Don't know, a group of people, it depends how tuned it is. If you can tell that it's an automatic translation of whatever it is they've done, then you can probably figure out what the original language is that they did it in. Although they may have gone to quite inordinate lengths to cover that up. So for example, you could write an email in English and then you could translate it using an automatic translation software. but it'd be obvious if you traced it back that the English one was the one that was well written. They might have gone to lengths to disguise that. I don't know. But that first thing to establish, is it a group of people or just one person? So following that line of inquiry will take you somewhere. Second, is somebody on Apple's customer list. That doesn't seem to narrow it down very much, but I would say you're looking for somebody who's a little bit elitist. So they'll definitely have one of those watch devices. You're looking for somebody who's on Apple's customer list, who's got more than one device, probably 3 Apple devices, including that little watch thing that Apple had brought out. Probably an early adopter of Apple stuff. So you're looking for somebody who buys it quite soon after it comes out, or even pre-orders it. What else can we say about them? There's somebody, they don't really like the people who they're sending this poison out to. So this brings us back to the elitist thing. They're a little bit contemptuous of normal people. Who would that be? I don't know, there's probably quite a lot of people falling into that category, you know, sizable number of people. But if I were the FBI, I'd definitely start with Apple's customer list and look for somebody with 2 or more Apple devices. Now, I've got this and an iPad, so, you know, but this is bought from one of our daughters, so I'm hardly an early adopter. So what I'm pointing out with that is that there's quite a lot of people could fall into the category of having 2 or more Apple devices, but I would say these people are early adopters and they've got 2 or more Apple devices. The person at the core of this, definitely. Now straight away we start to look at maybe the gender now. This is more ropey than what I previously intuited. You'd tend to say it was a guy. Why do I say that? This is a kind of vandalism thing. Although you could view it also as poison, and women are meant to be the poisoners, but that's not. Who's more of a bitch than a woman? Who's more like to poison somebody than a woman? Well, in my experience, it would be a bloke who is gay. And I'm not anti-gay or anything. It's just that gay blokes are the biggest bitches. So if you were looking for a real stinking attitude at times, I would look for that. That's just, this is intuition. You know, I can't give you facts, I don't have it. But I think if you work off fact and technical stuff, it'll only take you so far, and it might take you quite a long time. The only technical thing that's really important to work out, I think, is the timing of the beginning of the attack. I mean, it might be Friday night or something last week, but it might have taken a bit of time to get going. You know, it's one of those mathematical progressions, a geometric progression or an exponential one. Did it linger out there in the cyber world for ages, building up its mass until finally it got a kind of, you know, trigger level where it really exploded like a contagion? Or was it actually relatively quick to propagate? You know, did a load of people get emails landing on their inbox that they considered important or were marked high priority, or they thought in the NHS was from a senior person, you know, Secretary of State for Health being the most senior person in the NHS? I don't know. But the only important thing, technically, I'd say the primary importance is to work out exactly when the attack started. It may be more difficult to pinpoint where it started, but if you can work out exactly when it started, that would be a big thing. That'd be really important. And then the other thing I've mentioned, you know, figure out whether it's a group by whether the emails are translated in different languages well, or they're just automatic translations of whatever language began it. Then you probably know the primary language of the person who wrote the initial one. But if it's well written in different languages, that's a group of people. Automatic translations, we know, have little bits in them that seem odd, that would strike you as odd if you were a language speaker of that type. So it probably has been tailored to different organisations and stuff. But I don't know that side. It could be a personal email or it could be an organisational tailored email, so I don't know. You figure out if a group of people or an individual, and it's somebody who's elitist, and it's somebody on the Apple customer list, and they probably buy direct from Apple, and they probably buy the top of the range devices as well, and they will probably have an Apple Watch. Now, this doesn't mean that people who have an Apple Watch and who have 2 or more Apple devices are the ones you're looking for, but the person you're looking for is in among that lot. And you can rule out them having anything but a PC that they bring online now and again for certain stuff that they do. And also, if they were smart, of course, they'd use somebody else's machine to actually launch the attack. So that could be anything from, if they live in a little country place somewhere, it could be and they probably don't, because it's safer to be in a big city where there's lots of connections. A good place to launch it from would be a dormitory type situation or a flat type situation where there's loads of connections into the building, and where you rent a property so your name isn't on the lease. That's why I say the Apple customer list is really important. That's it. I think that's about all I can intuit from this distance. But there's somebody that doesn't like the average punter much, so they'll be a bit right-wing, I think we can safely say, contemptuous of normal people, and they've got no sympathy for people. They have to have a degree of empathy in order to fake up an email and send the attack, propagate the virus. But anyway, if you're looking for something that usually looks out for viruses and malware, there's a few things out there, but the one I use is Spy Hunter 4, and if you don't pay for it, it probably doesn't work. That's all I can tell you, really, because my experience is that all the ones I didn't pay money for didn't stop the problems coming. And then when I finally paid money for one, I found, like on our daughter's system, there were 1,000 items of malware. So that's it. That's all I can intuit. Thanks for watching and listening.